Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Power Vacuum. I'm your host, Belmont, and this is the kind of news I live for. We got Tim Cain coming out. I guess he's not making a million video games or spending all his time in a studio developing stuff because he's been talking a lot lately, and this latest one is just another awesome little addition to Fallout lore. We got this from PC Gamer. The original Fallout leads developer says China nuked first, vault suits were meant to be extruded by a machine, and yes, sugar bombs are a Calvin and Hobbes reference. That last one's my favorite because I always wondered that because that's like the number one cereal that Calvin eats in the comic strip is sugar bombs. And I've always wondered if it was a reference, especially given like the cover of the box. Like I wonder, pull this up real quick. Like, okay, this isn't what I was thinking. Oh no, I'm thinking of there's a comic that you collect. One of the drawings is kind of like Calvin. This is just generic like 1970s, 1950s, somewhere in that era. Whatever. I'm ranting. Well, not even ranting. I'm just getting listless. Also points out you're far from the first to leave your vault. Whoa, 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 whoa. See, now that, Tim, that is a major lore breaking change right there. But let's jump into this article. The original Fallout's lead developer, Tim Cain, has dropped another in his long running series of videos discussing the earlier games in the series. And with this one, he's definitively answered one of the biggest questions about how everything kicked off. Well, kind of. Cain's latest video is called Non Expository Fallout Lore and opens with some necessary caveats about what exactly he's covering. This is lore from the very first Fallout, not Fallout 2, that the design team knew was true, but nothing in the game directly stated it. Cain said that they oh, shit. I almost knocked my shit over. These were ideas that were supported by narrative and environment designs, but never stated directly in the game. As Kane put it, nobody should be walking around the wasteland going, "Hey, did you know they dropped nukes 80 years ago?" Yes, everybody knows that. To be explicit, this is not canon. This is the stuff that was true in the first game, but there's no design document, says Kane. Bethesda is canon. You don't have to like it, but water's wet. The first biggie, this has been known about for a while, but it's the first time Kane addressed it in such length. The nuclear war was triggered by China, but it had a good reason, in as much as you can ever have a good reason for starting a global nuclear war. China nuked first, says Kane. It's pretty obvious from the game, isn't it? This is not canon, but let me explain what I mean and why we thought that. In the original game, we had established that the US was doing bioweapon research. We weren't supposed to. We had signed a UN treaty saying we wouldn't do that, and I think you can't find that out in the game. I think you can find that out in the game. China discovered that what we were doing. How did they discover that? Espionage. We went, oops, our bad. We'll stop doing it, but we just kept doing it. Just move the research to another base. It's a hidden base where you discovered Zax the supercomputer. So he knows some of this, and there are logs that can explain some of this, but it's never actually stated that when China found out we were still doing it and had just moved, well, they'd already tried diplomacy and they tried espionage, and none of that worked. So they just nuked us. We nuked back. Other countries nuked because all anyone saw was missiles flying. China technically started it by firing the first nuke, but you could argue that technically the US started it by doing illegal bioweapons research, then lying about it multiple times. So, kind of like the real world right now, right? Governments of the world, fucking bioweapon research. Kane says that some people wonder where Russia was during all this, and the team had assumed in their retro future that it had broken up and was a bunch of little bickering states while Europe had unified. Weird how we predicted the whole Canada thing. But anyway, in the Fallout universe, Canada is annexed by the United States. Kane goes on to point out that the pre made characters for the game included Natalia, the granddaughter of some Russian diplomat, and thus, obviously, we were friendly enough with Russia embassy that they got some of their diplomats into the vaults, the vault you're in. So, obviously, that wasn't a country we were at odds with. So, China nuked first, not canon, but we'll all proceed from that. Fallout features three pre made characters, and there's some subterranean lore here about why they are who they are. if you look at those characters, you may go, "That's the best the vault had to offer." No, the vault did a lottery. They basically drew straws, explains Kane. They knew they had to send someone out, so they had people draw straws, and whoever drew the short straw had to go out into what's presumed to be a radioactive wilderness that would kill them. But hopefully, before the radiation kills them, they'd return with a water chip replacement. That's the surface level. But with Max, for example, a big dumb combat type, no one chose for that character to go. He wasn't their first choice. He wasn't their best choice. He wouldn't even be near the choice, except one thing we talked about and laughed about as possibly being true was that the entire lottery for who leaves the vault was rigged, explains Kane, and that would explain those three characters. You have this guy who's an idiot. Why would you send him out? Well, it gets him out of the gene pool. Then you have Natalia, who's stealing everything, probably pissed people off. She's gone. Albert was always trying to manipulate everybody because he's such a smooth talker. He's gone. So getting rid of these characters were probably high on someone's list. There's a support for this in the game, just things here and there. But the biggest support is the moment you step out of the vault and you look down at the ground, there's a dead guy in a vault suit. They'd already sent someone out. That also explains why they didn't have much to give you. They probably did have supplies for external exploration, maybe a radiation suit, maybe better weapons or whatever, but you're not the first person they sent out. And you get evidence of that moment you step out. Whoever that guy was, I think we said his name was Ed, laughs Kane, which means you knew him and you knew his name. Ed stepped out, Ed got attacked by rads, Ed died. All that's left is Ed's bones and raggedy old vault suit. So yes, this evidence that there was a lottery and you're not the first person sent out. I don't think I ever really made that connection when I was younger. I think I always assumed that the character was just naming them to name them and that it was somebody from another vault. Because you do run into other vault dwellers and other vaults, but interesting that that was what the setup was. Because I thought it was just to show you that there are more vaults when you leave. Like there's not just one, there's multiple. That's what I gleaned from it, but this is also me trying to tap into fucking memory from 30 years ago. Kane goes on to discuss vault suits and in particular the idea that they wouldn't be made of cloth but extruded from machines in the vault. I know this because one of the vault ideas we had was that the vault suit extruder was broken, so everyone in the vault was naked. The reason we wanted to do an extruder is, first of all, the vault suit is skin tight, highly tailored, but if this vault was supposed to be closed for hundreds of years, there's no way you could have enough suits in there for everybody because there'd be multiple generations, suits would wear out, people come in all shapes and sizes, especially when you throw kids in the mix. So there's no way they could possibly store vault suits for everybody. So we just said, oh, there's some kind of extruder. You typed in measurements or stood in front of a scanner, and whatever in the vault suit freshly for you was extruded, and that's why they're all skin tight. That's why they have the numbers on the back. That's why they don't have to make a different vault suit for every vault. When it extruded, it added your vault's number on the back. We always just assumed that that was going to be true, but then it never came up again. But if you do look in the vaults, you never find, at least in the base game, you never find boxes and boxes of vault suits. Finally, one of my favorite references in the Fallout games is sugar bombs. Kane ended his video and discussed these. While their first appearance was in Fallout 3, I was surprised to learn that they date back to the original game's design. We designed Sugar Bomb, said Kane. It was a huge Calvin and Hobbes fan. I had the box set. It was designed. We talked about it. We never added it. It was purely I love Calvin and Hobbes, so of course Sugar Bombs will be in one of my games. In the comics, chocolate frosted sugar bombs are Calvin's favorite cereal, high in sugar, high in caffeine, and with no nutritional value to speak of. Kane has been making YouTube videos for a good while now, and he keeps dropping fascinating tidbits about foundations of one of the greatest games, such as what vaults are actually for and why the first game is set in 2161. Yeah, there's a series on YouTube. I got to pay more attention to it because I've only watched like two of his videos, and he's got quite a few now. And you'd think I'd be more attuned to it because, again, this is the type of lore stuff I love, especially from the original Fallouts, which I think were groundbreaking games. But there you have it. Tim Cain dropping some little nuggets. None of it's truly canon because it wasn't actually in the game, but this was the intent for some of the things in the original Fallout game. And maybe we'll find out some more cool facts from him in the future. But that's all I have for this video. This is your host, Belmont, signing out.